Welcome, marvelous makers,
and art appreciators,
to the ArtSpace podcast,
brought to you by Lemon Street Gallery and ArtSpace,
located at 4601 Sheridan Road.
Stop on by your favorite citrus-themed art gallery at the next available moment and peruse our wonderful selection of fine art.
And your hosts today are Shelby Nesmith
And Jake Hoy.
And today we are talking with the wonderful rainbow-filled Morgan Adams. So, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I really, truly appreciate that.
The pleasure is all ours.
Yes.
It's so excited
Wonderful
to be here.
have you here. I love your work. I was looking through the brick gallery the other day, and it's amazing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Starting off the podcast with compliments and love.
Glowing compliments.
Yes.
I was going to say, am I glowing? But I feel like that's something you ask like a pregnant lady.
And yeah.
And I'm not.
I was about to say, biologically, I don't
Yet.
think. No, yeah. And no one can see that because this is a podcast.
Well, there are going to be photos up,
True.
but, you know.
You have a beautiful aura. You're glowing in that
I am glowing.
sense.
Okay.
Yes, you're glowing.
Glowing and tossing out glowing compliments.
Yes. Great
We like
energy.
to have fun here.
Yes. So, how are you doing? You just had your second Saturday reception. Are you glowing? Are you coming off the wonderful feelings of that?
Yeah, I think I'm still just trying to process the whole night still. It was such a great night, and it was such a great energy and such a cohesive flow between all three artists. And I think it made, and you guys were exceptional. Honestly, you and Beth and the helpers that you had were exceptional and influential in getting everybody kind of in that cohesive mood, and it was a really good show full of a lot of substance.
Well, yay! We like to arrange our shows kind of sneakily and pair people based on kind of their energy and their work and everything. Because if someone has a good energy with their work, they're gonna bring really nice quality people in, and we love that. We love spreading the love. So we're glad that secret pairing worked out. We always get a little nervous when people are asking for spots. It's like, okay, maybe you could take April or something, because we totally have another like nature-based artist that's in April. So we try to be sneaky with that. But yeah.
It was a happy little accident.
Yes.
We
always tell them. We always like, it just worked. It just so happens.
I wish I could have been there. I wasn't there because I suck. No, actually, it was my birthday.
I was about to say,
Oh,
birthday boy.
happy belated birthday.
Yes, birthday boy.
Yeah, not that belated because we're recording this episode a bit later than we would like to. It's coming 5 days before it comes out.
Yeah,
It's better than last week. So.
Hey, you're getting a podcast.
Our
You're getting what you get.
Yeah, you're listening to something right now. It is decent quality,
Yes.
audio-wise. Fantastic quality guest-wise, though.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
But yeah, birthday boy.
Oh, man, I'm old.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
No. You're 32?
Two. Yeah,
Gasp. No, you're not that old.
I am.
No, you're not. We're not going to get into this. But let's get into those questions, birthday boy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Morgan, we got some questions for you.
I'm so excited. I could really use some right now.
Well, let's start out with the basics. What would you say got you into art?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, I've been an artist my whole life. I've also been running from art my entire life. I never would tell anybody that I was in art. I mean, I've been in art since I can remember. So I think I just took it for granted. So I ran from it most of my life and joined the corporate world and really trained myself to do all these different skills and figured that I'd always have art to fall back on if I needed to while having no training whatsoever. But the thing that actually did it for me is I have a neurological condition called narcolepsy type 1. So that includes cataplexy, where you can sometimes fall down. So, and it was pretty extreme. It's extreme to the point where I had to leave work. I would fall asleep about every every 45 minutes
Wow.
for about 20 minutes at a time. And that's really hard to sustain, especially at the level where I was at with the company that I was at. And at one point, my managers pulled me aside and said, "We're worried about you. And I think about 8 years, they were extremely accommodating, I have to say. In about 8 years, I never made it to work on time. I was always at least 45 minutes late or like an hour late, and they were okay with me still. Wow. And yeah, I was pretty fortunate to work as long as I did. So I had to stop work because of narcolepsy, and I was at home, and I was really bored, I think. And I'd always been an artist. And I think that during that time, it was really turbulent. So I didn't know like where we were going to get money from, how I was going to, help contribute to the household. And so I just went to art. It was something that I knew how to do. I knew I could sell it. And I just started doing watercolor paintings because funny enough, a family friend, a local tattoo artist does paintings on people. He's incredible. And he said that watercolor was the hardest medium. So I decided that's what I'm going to do.
Take that time to tackle it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. So that's what I did. It's straight out the gate. And then that was in 2014. And then I think later on that year, it was only a couple months. It was like I was way too early into it. I won a national award for rare artist.
Wow.
So I was flown out to Washington D.C. and like spoke at the Capitol building, and it was
cool.
very cool. And I was like, oh well, maybe this art thing is, I could really do this. And so it kind of helped spurred me along for the first couple of years there.
That's a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Yeah, it was. Especially, I had never taken art class. Like, I mean, I took it in high school, but
Right.
it wasn't like,
Completely self-taught. So
yeah.
yeah. And then you slowly started to move into oils, I think. So if you could tell us the timeline of that, because I know you went from oils to working then with palette knife, and you're kind of just experimenting right now, I think, and going forward. So
I think you're right. Yeah, I had always wanted to paint in oils, and I could never make the brush do what I wanted it to do. I mean, it was just catastrophizing, and I had zero instruction. So basically, it was just me and some canvases, and like, I would buy the materials and just try and play with them, and hope that would create an image, and it did not. I mean, nothing that it wasn't the same as what I saw inside my head. Okay. And so I really wanted that. I wanted to have that experience and being able to finally get the things that I was seeing out on canvas. So in 2000, I want to say it was like 18, I watched YouTube.
Me too.
YouTube saving the world.
Every year I've watched YouTube.
But I watched a couple of videos and something just clicked. And by January 2019, I finally, I achieved what I wanted to. So I practiced really hard for a year, and every day just tiny brushes, hours and hours and hours on end. I would just same brush strokes over and over and over again. And I really got into photorealism just right off the bat. That I knew that's the exact what I wanted to do was photorealistic work, because I figured if I could master that, I could pretty much master anything. Yeah. And it seemed like the hardest thing at the time. So I always try to do the hardest thing first, I guess.
Makes the other stuff easier. So
I think that's what the training is. Yes. Yeah. And it really pays off in the end. So I was able to achieve photorealistic results really early on, within the first, I don't know, 2 paintings that I had done. So I was thrilled. And then I just really sat down and practiced for just hundreds of hours. And then I'm here today. So,
So we have a segment on this show called Jake is an Idiot. And she hates that name.
I hate that title. It's a working title. Jesus.
I am not an artist. I'm not an artist. I appreciate art, but I don't know anything about. I know a little bit. I'm learning.
Learning.
Photorealism. Is that exactly what you think it means? It means you're trying to get it as much like a photo as you can?
Yes.
Okay. So the 5th grade or the 5-year-old explanation is the correct one in this case.
Yeah, it is what it sounds like. Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yes.
That's a difficult thing.
I'm not sure. I don't know. It was just, it clicked for me.
Yeah. Shelby, is it hard?
For me, yes.
Okay.
I'm more of abstract, loosey-goosey type of person. It just depends on the artist and how
Okay.
their brain is kind of wired to translate from the brain to the hand, or the idea, how it gets translated, because and how connections work, because some people, when they have this idea in their brain, they look into more abstract forms to create the image that's in their brain. So I tend to be more loosey goosey. So
Got it.
That's a really good way of explaining that. It really is, because I'm extremely meticulous. Like, I'm very extremely detail oriented. And I think that goes through, just like you're saying. And I struggle with the loosey goosey stuff, and I'm something that I'm actively really working on. And it's beautiful.
oh, well, thank you. And I can see that with the palette knife too, that it's really translating well with that movement that you're creating and those textures. So I can see that meeting of loosey goosey but still structured and organized and layered with colors. So I love seeing it. Like your cows in there. Oh, my favorite. So,
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I'm
those ones are
glad.
great. I
yeah,
remember that.
I love the cows.
I think it comes down to having that confidence too, because like you trust yourself to do the abstract work, to do the loosey goosey things. And sometimes I can go too far into the organizational thing where I don't trust myself to do the loosey goosey, and it takes so much like losing that control a little bit. I think I've struggled with, and now I'm glad you said that, because I do feel like the palette knives allow me to kind of explore that world more, and just blame it on the knife if I don't like it. I can't blame it on my brush stroke anymore.
And instead of like sitting there meticulously creating this kind of an illusion of texture, you're actually putting texture on there. So I think I'd like to see you do like a full experimental textured thing. And I know you're getting to a little more abstract forms too. So I'd love to see that merging of textured and abstract, maybe. So I love where you're going and where you're heading with your work. So speaking of art and what got you started into art, what would you say is your earliest art memory?
Okay, so when I was little, I had to make a birthday card for one of my great aunts, and the only thing I knew how to draw at the time, because I was so little, was a fat mouse.
Oh my God.
So, which was basically like a triangle and a couple of circles, and but it was like, oh, I ate too much cheese, and I thought I was so funny.
That
I
is
was
funny.
I love it.
Not everybody found the humor in it, and my mom, I think she had to have been stressed about something else, but was like, she's overweight, and
Oh,
like she thought I was
no.
fat shaming her with my fat mouse birthday card. And I'm sure if you ask her, she would completely deny it and said that she's always supported my work and she loves me to no end. I think it was just one of those moments that all parents have, and said something a little
You
out of
don't
turn.
see these connections here? Maybe you shouldn't do that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that they ever would have thought that I would turn out to be an actual artist, but it was something that I actually really appreciated her doing, because I learned very early on because it really hurt my feelings. And one of the things that I did as a kid a lot was protect my feelings. I'm a very just naturally very just sensitive person. And that's, something that I've had to struggle with for my whole life. And so, as a child, I was that sensitive. And so being that sensitive about my art, I understood at that point that I could be hurt by this. So I kept it protected. And I think later on, that really saved me from a lot of people who might have been trying to be helpful and may have said that I wasn't a good artist, but they didn't really have the opportunity. So I learned a lot from that first experience with art. It was pretty much to hide it, but that was okay. It turned out okay in the end,
You're here now.
Yes.
You're showcasing art. You're making wonderful work. So
when you get a birthday card from your little niece or nephew and it's got a
you
fat
put that
mouse
thing on
it,
the fridge.
they might
You
grow
frame
up.
it.
They might be a famous artist someday.
It's true.
You frame it and you keep it and you praise them and you encourage the little artists that they are. So, yes. I love I love it when we do kids events and stuff and you just see their faces light up while they're making art and they show you, like we just got done with Pride and they show us our little googly-eyed jellyfish thing and it's just all smushed together and they're just like, look at what I made. And it's like, it's so cute.
That's
You
awesome.
made a little smushy thing and I love it. I mean, I don't say that, but it's just like,
That's the inner dialogue.
yes, you made that little smushed up thing and you're proud of it. Go kid, go.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's every generation does it better. And it was just, given the information at the time, that was parenting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I support your fat mouth.
Thank you.
And I'm glad.
We are both team fat mouse.
Yes, team fat mouse.
Well, this is kind of a similar question. Who would you say was an influence on your art, either growing up or now or both?
Okay, and this might be one of those answers that we don't expect, but everybody who ever told me that I couldn't do it.
Oh,
I love that motivation.
It's just, and it's not like a happy mode. Like I do love it too because I get stuff done. But it's one of those things where it's like I think that again that really shaped me going forward because now I'm not afraid to make art.
Yeah.
I had so much practice telling everybody to go sit in syrup because I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Or, I couldn't do it and they presented challenges for me and I wanted to overcome those. I wanted to, and I'm sure that's symptomatic, but like, I'm sure diagnosable, but like, I wanted to like overcome and it was great because it was so easy for me because it gave me a clear cut direction. You can't do this or, you're not that good. Well, okay, so I'm going to be that good.
Yeah.
It gave me that clear focus to go after just to, if it pinged off my ego, then I knew there was a clue there. So that was what I needed to do. And it helped me not take so many things so personally when it came to this thing that I was protecting for so long and also running from.
Yeah. Totally get that. And working off that energy, there's a fire and a drive. I feel like that's different from passion. And I feel like at times it can be a lot more helpful to see the negatives and hear the negatives because then you can know what to build on, work on. It's almost like they're critiquing, saying you can't do it, but you're like, all right, well, I'm going to find ways to do it. And so there is some form of critique and feedback that I feel like it just fires you up and you get this energy that sometimes general passion can't give you. So yeah,
I think it's easy to ignore the good stuff sometimes, and sometimes our brains are hardwired to see the negative, and I think that those emotional impacts makes it fresher in our minds, and we're reminded of those times more because we find them personally offensive, and so and then it keeps popping up, and then that's the only thing we can really focus on.
So why not feel it and just have it propel
Exactly.
you forward? Yes, I like
oh, that's awesome.
where that kind of
It's
comes
like a
from.
superpower.
Yes.
Yeah,
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, you can turn it into
A strength.
very much, and not take it personally. Every time I hear it now, I laugh, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like,
That's great.
Love that. Love that. And that is, we weren't expecting that answer, but it's a very valid, strong answer. So
No, I love it.
I'm
I love
glad.
it. Yeah, that's so cool. It's like opened my mind right there. Like my mind is blown.
Thanks, haters.
I'm not even kidding.
good. I'm glad. And as what you guys are doing here, podcasts are not easy. They're tough jobs, and you're doing a really good job.
Aw,
I mean, honestly.
It's because we cut out all of our mistakes.
But it's, remember that going forward. It's, nobody's.
No
it's
rules.
Okay. Yeah, there are no rules. There are no rules. Point to the thing hurting you. And if you can't point at it, then it's trying to get your attention. And that attention is usually for something very good.
Wonderfully said.
Preaching over here.
I know,
My
right? Oh my
goodness,
goodness.
look at you. But yeah, that's one of our mottos is there's no rules. No
Yeah.
rules to podcasting.
We,
no,
we literally, when we had like our first meeting about this show, we wrote that at like the top of the page. There are no rules.
no
Good.
rules. So
We try to
Yeah.
live that.
try to keep flowing, keep moving and going. So
But there are questions.
yes. And the next question that we have for you is, who is your favorite artist, whether that be like world renowned or local, or if you want to talk about a little bit about both?
Wow, I have I just list right now. I'm following somebody on Instagram called Bluesmith, and they do a lot of botanical kind of rainbow work. He does these giant pieces, and I love to paint big. He's everything that I kind of want to be as an artist. So I think that's why I'm so drawn to him. But he paints a lot of, very vibrant colors in a very ethereal way, and it's just some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. Local artists, I have a short list of about like 15.
Okay, go
That's
for it.
We
Go
have
for
nothing
it.
but time.
Okay, Matt Bellafor, Peggy Rush, Edie Otterman. Yeah, they're all like trying to jam through it once.
Yeah.
So, Paulette Colo. Oh, Sujit for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Lemon Street,
yeah.
yeah.
I actually own a couple of his works.
Love his stuff.
Great watercolor.
Yes, he's amazing watercolor.
Can't wait for him to. I hope he can come back from India and teach another class. That would be so awesome.
Is he?
He's stuck out there because
Still.
COVID. Yeah, and
It's been years.
I know, and the regulations and stuff. So he's looking to get back. So we're hoping.
Yes, fingers crossed. We need you.
Yes, we
So
need you and
hey.
your watercolor wisdom.
Yes, and also podcast No Boundaries.
Yes.
Gosh, Beth Derry,
Oh yeah.
We
Our
know
little
her.
Beth.
now I'm drawing a blank. I literally wrote down I have a list, but I wrote the words I have a list.
Oh.
And now I can't remember anybody on the list
No
because
pressure.
that's how that works. Honestly, I think the local artists in this area, especially, are under recognized. I think the talent here is unbelievable. Just I've always said that Kenosha and between like here and Kenosha, like this North Shore kind of area is very hot spot to me. Like I see the talent that you don't expect. Like I hate to say you don't expect from local artists, but these are people who have really worked hard to cultivate something very special inside of them, and it's fabulous what they're doing. I think that so many go so underappreciated just because of the title local, and it's not fair because these are competitors. These are real, really talented, really disciplined, hardworking people who have done impossible images and just made them look fabulous. So you can't go wrong.
Yes. And that's why at Lemon Street we get compliments all the time on the local art, and it's just you don't know Kenosha and Kenosha Racine kind of area, that little bubble. It's just jam packed full. And
I mean, we've been like recording and we have and it's not like we're like, who are we going to talk to this week? There's it's like every episode we have like 5 more names that we're like, we got to talk to them.
Yeah.
We got to get Sujit on.
Yeah.
we got to get, and it's like, there's
list.
not enough time to talk to all the amazing artists.
the list is never ending, and I guess that's good for the podcast.
It makes that part easier.
Yes. So we're not a stone's throw away from a fine artist just standing there.
Oh yeah.
That is
that's
true.
nice. Yeah. So, but we get compliments all the time at the gallery working here. Just so surprised, and like, there's just not a lot of platforms to see it. So we like being that platform, and we also like to be that podcast to highlight, because there's not a lot of places to showcase and see it. So we just want to support it as much as possible.
I completely agree with that.
Yay!
All right. Next question.
Woohoo!
Morgan, what would you say is your motivation or motivation to create?
For me, okay, so I wish I had motivation. I do not.
Same.
But it does. There's like 2 parts to this. So like for me, there's no motivation. It's more about the practice. It's the daily practice of doing your things. And for me, that can include going on the treadmill in the morning, doing just my morning routine. And then at a certain time I sit down, and every day at that time I have to create. And that can create a very kind of itchy Morgan on days that I'm not creating, but at least then my body's prepared for it, because I do feel like there's an extra adrenaline, there's an extra something that happens when we create. And I think that needs to kind of learn its boundaries a little bit, and creating these routines helps to do that. So I keep everything written out on paper. and I follow a set routine in order to create. Doing so puts me into the creative flow faster. I'm able to create better pieces, faster pieces. The whole experience works a lot better. Now, at the same time, it also makes me very bored very quickly. After a couple of weeks, then we kind of, and you see this in artists. I think we go through these ebbs and flows of high creation points and then low creation points. And I think it's all just part of the process as we kind of go through this. And I can see how it routinely we need to take those breaks. And I think that's just as human beings. So but understanding that about myself and not beating myself up for the times that I'm not creating work as much as I'd like to, because we all go through that. And I have to be very gentle with myself during those times, because I still feel that drive. But I have to remember this is part of the process right now. Where are we now? What can we do now? Because if we're in the state of non-creation, I keep trying to force myself to go in there and I'm not producing anything, then something else needs my attention. And once, I kind of free up that bandwidth, then I can get back to what I was doing. And that's a tightrope to walk too, because then you don't want to fill your life with distractions. But you still have to be able to take care of what you need to take care of. So discerning what's a distraction versus what's actually going to help me move forward has been something that I'm learning this year.
Well, that's a lot of structure. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We've had some guests on that are very much like, I probably should, or like I need a deadline to create, that kind of thing. So it's amazing the spectrum of all the different types of motivations that we've come across.
Yes. So I love that. And some people thrive off of the routine, and I'm glad that really works for you. And I should probably do that myself, because then I get those like pent up moments where I'm like, I can't focus on anything. I need to make something right now or I'm going to explode, and they'll just come out of nowhere. And it's like, well, what do I do with this? I feel itchy, like internally. It's so weird. And so yeah, having that routine of channeling the energy and then understanding when you can't, and then doing things slightly in that realm of creativity to at least still work and go forward. So I really like that. And I'm probably going to do a routine of something like that too. So thank you.
You're welcome. And again, that's what I mean, that creative energy, I think, really needs those boundaries at times. And that training also kind of helps the body understand, okay, so if we're in this environment now, we're not creating, or, it helps regulate those emotions. It brings us back to center a little bit faster, I think, too. The second part of that, I think, is creation is a compulsion for me. I do feel very itchy if I don't create. I can definitely I definitely don't take care of myself as well when I don't create. So I don't exercise as much. I don't eat as well. My habits aren't nearly as good. But sometimes you need those times. I mean, honestly, you do. You need to have some fun.
Yeah.
But I just knowing that about myself is nice. I also get, like, whenever I do paint, I think you guys call it flying. I don't know. In psychology, we call them like peak experiences, where you have like these, for me anyway, I get these intense, like, I listen to audiobooks. So my process in painting is listening to audiobooks, which are usually psychology based or like self-helpery stuff. And like, I just love it. It's so, I don't read fiction. I read very practical books. I'm very, I think obviously very practical, organized in a lot of ways. And I want to understand myself and my behavior more. So I listen to a lot of these books. And during that time, my brain, I guess, gets bored, or I don't know what happens, but something happens. And so parts of me shut off and are distracted by the audiobook. And then I'm painting at the same time in a very kind of like a meditative almost kind of stroke. I stand when I paint. So I kind of rock back and forth, and, and then I get these awesome like visions, and like I don't know what's exactly happening, but they call it like peak experiences, where you start to have like these really intense like chemical reactions, where you start to I think your brain just starts really producing its own happy chemicals, and
serotonin,
and dopamine, and it's at these beautiful levels where like you're so happy, and you have like scary painting ghost face, and like it's like, but you're part of something, and at those moments I think that you really become part of the art. And those are the times where you're really not thinking that I love the best, because that's when I really can translate however I'm feeling, or usually whatever I'm reading, onto the canvas, because I'm not even thinking about it, and I'm just in that full state of everything at once, but being okay with it, and just participating with it and being a part of it.
Oh, well, that's really cool. And you can see that kind of in your strokes too, when you get like areas where you're really, I could see it, like she really was in the groove while doing this area, because the way they flow and you layer them, and I could see like your moments kind of throughout the piece, and I love that journey while viewing your work.
That's
You
awesome.
can kind of, yeah, it's just fun. You have so many like aspects of your work going on, and just love how it ends up and collides into the final piece. So and art is very therapeutic and a good connection, a way to open yourself up. So I like the way that you use it as kind of medicine, and just key to open yourself up and learn more about yourself. So yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
very important. Art and mental health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yay. So we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to talk with Morgan about their wonderful, wonderful rainbow works of art. Hey, marvelous makers.
And art appreciators,
If you like our podcast,
there's a good chance you like figure art as well.
yes, perhaps you were introduced to drawing from the figure when you were in college and have long enjoyed going to community draws.
Or maybe you've always appreciated figure art but didn't have an opportunity to try it yourself, or didn't know where to go or when, or even if you'd be welcome there, or if you'd feel out of place.
Well, if you'd like to be a part of this ancient craft, we have the solution for you.
We happen to have a world-class drawing studio right here in our own community, located within the 16th Street Art Studios, which is housed at the Racine Business Center, 1405 16th Street.
Draw Joseph Studio is the creation of Joseph Vigneri, one of the most prolific life models around.
Yeah, hasn't he posed like almost 1,200 times?
Yes, and he's introduced over 50 model proteges to the craft of life modeling as well.
Wow.
They constantly have new variety of models to draw from. Free weekly figure draws are every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. till 8:30 p.m.
Wait, did you say free?
Yes, tipping the model is encouraged, but there is no fee to draw.
Tuesdays at 6, you said? Every Tuesday?
Yes and yes. Doors are open at 5:30, so come early and get the best spot. Oh, and Draw Joseph Studio also has 2 monthly draws. On the 4th Friday at 6 p.m. is a special long pose, and every second Sunday at 1 p.m. is a portrait session.
So second Sunday and fourth Friday for specials, but every Tuesday night for regular open session?
Yes, and there's always snacks too.
I love snacks.
Me too.
Draw Joseph Studio at the Racine Business Center, 1405 16th Street.
Park inside the main gate on the northeast side of the center and go straight into the tunnel. The studio is the very first studio inside the building.
Questions? Go to Draw Joseph Studio Facebook. All right, folks, we are back here with Morgan and Shelby.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm Jake. We got some questions for you. I've said that a few times, I think. But we got another one.
Ooh.
So this is a fun one. We're getting into our fun questions, as I like to call them.
The second half.
If time and money were no object, what's your dream project?
I mean, everything. I honestly, when thinking about it, I only have like one image that comes to mind, and I would love to get like an actual studio where I can get I love painting in like huge pictures. So I like to paint like 36 by 48s or, bigger, just line the walls with them, I think, and just see where it takes me, see where I'm finally going. Cause I do feel like I'm kind of in this beginning stage of art, especially because I am self-taught and so new, where I have so much to explore yet. And I don't know where that voice is necessarily yet. I mean, I have a good idea, but it's like there's still so much more that I just don't know.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is super exciting. So I think that would be where I'd want to go, is just be able to have like a full, 30-foot wall and have a whole bunch of 36 by 48s lined up, big brushes, huge just buckets of paint, and just see what comes out.
That sounds amazing. And I like, especially I think if you like connected the pieces together to create a big storyline, because I know you like having a lot of meaning with your work. So like um just kind of creating this timeline that just appears of all your meaning and how it comes together. I think that'd be so cool.
Would
Yes,
be.
that would be awesome.
So if
Yeah.
anybody would
Yeah.
like to fund this with a grant,
Yeah.
I'm very open to that.
We'll do some looking.
Well, in our fantasy world, it's funded. It's good.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's
no
completely funded.
object.
Yep, no object.
We forgot to add the second part that we invented last week.
Yes.
So we asked the question last week, and he said that he was going to have a concert on the moon with Bob Marley, Kurt
That's a good
Cobain, and a bunch of other like dead. It was so.
Dead
So
artists,
the
so-
other part of that question is if reality was no. It was no object. We're springing one on you. Don't worry, it's not a real question. But that was our second part of that we invented last week because
If reality was
Yeah.
if reality wasn't actually a thing and
Yeah.
I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
no gravity, you can paint upside down.
She already does. She paints
I
upside
do
down.
paint upside down.
Oh wow!
But usually that's a
Gotcha.
canvas that's upside down
Yeah.
at me. I mean, that one's, jeez, where do you,
That's a
It's
heavy
pretty
question.
deep.
yeah. I mean, the dragons could be involved.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, where do you,
You're on the back of a dragon flying around and painting while he's flying around. And everything's all strapped down. Would
Yeah.
have to be.
Yeah. And you
Well, I
get
mean-
an aerial view of stuff and you can paint.
I paint the sky
Yeah.
so everybody could see it. Otherwise, if I'm painting the ground, only I could see it.
That's awesome. I love that. That's the best
Love
answer.
that perspective. Yes.
Paint the sky.
Yeah, because you do clouds and stuff with your ocean, your waves and stuff.
Oh yeah, I love
So-
those.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The clouds are especially close to me because I'm a meteorologist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he saw your two smaller pieces and he's just like, I love those.
Yeah, those are my favorite.
It was like the night and day ones.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
was just
yeah.
like, yes, I love those.
I tried to pay very close attention
Yeah.
to atmospheric conditions.
They,
I really do.
they get the check plus in my book.
Yay. Okay, good. I'm so glad. And it's validated by a meteorologist.
I have a
Yeah.
degree in meteorology. Yes.
It's awesome.
You represent the cloud types well, and they're all there grouped nicely. So
Great cumulus congestus.
I'm sure Google will tell me what that is later.
If you can spell it, good luck. I can't.
so funny comments.
That was a
You-
funny comment.
You made a funny comment, and I know you had a funny comment on your little chubby mouse. But have you heard any comments about your work that are funny, or they kind of stand out to you, or like any stories about funny stories about your work?
Actually, there is one because I tried to think if there was anything, and I'm a pretty serious painter, so I usually attract pretty serious people. But somebody was very serious one day. I was at an art fair, and I had this 36 by 48 piece hanging. It's called Heavens, and it's a very dramatic piece of the sky over Lake Michigan, and it is very striking. It's very dramatic, and it looks a lot of times like there's light coming like from the painting. That sort of kind of luminosity. And this one very intense looking gentleman kept looking at the front of the painting and then on the other side of the painting. And he's like, so there's no light behind this.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, no. And like he mentioned it to somebody else because I was actually talking to somebody and he mentioned it to somebody he was talking to. He's like, there's no light behind this. And I was speaking with somebody who was very excited about speaking. And I wasn't getting much of a break to actually talk to him. And he found a break in between that. And just in the most intense voice you can possibly imagine was like, this is intense. And like, he was so intense as a person that it was one of the most, I don't know, non-threatening, intense moments of my life. It was so intense. And it was just,
An intense person proclaiming the intensity.
Yes.
The ultimate in intense.
yes, it was double intense.
Yes. Russian nesting doll of intense.
That's great because so many of the other guests we've asked that question to. They have like negative stuff of people being like, oh, I could do that. And it's like, oh, I guess it's funny, but it's also kind of sad and hurtful. But this was a positive, funny comment.
Yeah.
And That's great.
Well, I think everybody gets that too, where they're like, I could do that. And it's like, okay,
It's best
show
not
me.
to remember those.
Yeah. It's like, show me. I did. Yeah, you can't take that stuff personally. That's usually just somebody who's a suppressed artist who's just too afraid to try. And you have to say, listen, I think you should try art.
It says more about them than you.
Yeah. Ooh, calling them out.
Oh,
Calling them out.
shots fired.
Calling them out.
You heard me, mean people. You're not good.
Oh.
Boom, boom, boom.
You didn't see that, but he did finger gun.
Hot take.
Yes.
Bad people are bad.
Oh my goodness.
We're getting a little loosey-goosey here.
I love it. Is that just our new catchphrase?
That's your catchphrase.
That's
You have a
mine?
catchphrase now.
I have
Yay!
one. Loosey
We can get
goosey.
I have
t-shirts
stop
made.
on by.
Yeah.
You have loosey-goosey.
And rising tide.
I haven't said that in a while.
Say it.
Well, it's got to come up. What's the word?
In the last question, it'll come up,
Okay.
which we are about
You don't overpromise.
to ask.
Okay.
Dun 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 dun.
Wow, that was a segue.
Yes.
Okay, our last question, but it's not the end of the show.
No.
It's just our last question. Morgan, what are some of your thoughts on the local art community? Like ways to improve, like things that we have going for us, or what do you think?
Given history, I mean, this could be a little brazen to say, but I do think this area is a hot spot.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that history is going to look back on, and they're going to see a group of artists who come out of this area that is going to change a lot. And I strongly feel that the talent's just too strong, the discipline's there, and also we see the evolution happening. You guys' podcast, for instance, this is helping all of us. This is helping get the word out. It's bringing more attention. I think artists can be still pretty mysterious people to a lot of individuals out there, and getting to know us and realizing, no, we're good. We plant flowers too, and
We have problems too, and
Right.
we're human, and we exist. Yeah.
and we can balance a checkbook, and
Yeah.
it's just fine. And we own businesses, and this is a very real thing. This is how we make our livings, and this
Right.
is and this is the reasons why, or these are the reasons why. But seeing the community grow, especially the art community, especially from Lemon Street Gallery and your work here, I mean, there's been a noticeable change over the years. It's continued to grow, and now with social media and how you're coming in and flexing your muscles with those platforms has helped immensely. You can really see the changes happening. You can feel it. You can actually feel it happening. So I honestly say, keep doing what you're doing. Your ideas, you have them for a reason. It would be cruel to have wonderful ideas like I know you both have and not be able to achieve them. They're there for a reason. So I say, follow those dreams, follow those ideas, because we as an art community, that's what we're probably crying out for.
Oh, that's so nice. Makes me feel all warm and fuzzy.
Hi.
Well, we'd be nothing without the actual artists, and I think at the end of the day, that's we can promote all we want, but if we don't have the quality and the commitment to show for it, it's not going to work out. But we do, and I think that's becoming more and more evident by the day.
Yes.
Yes.
The list keeps growing, but
Top of that list is Morgan.
yes, yes.
Thank you.
But when I kind of fell into this dream of mine of having this podcast, I saw there was a lack of platform, a lack of something there. So I was like, why don't we make something? Because it's obviously missing. There's a hole, I see it. Let's fill it with something that's really cool, fun, and interesting. That kind of accepts a lot of people of all different forms and types, whether it be sculpting, painting, music, just any art form, and just uplift them and give them some spotlight that they need. Because unfortunately, Kenosha and the area have a lot of talented artists, but not a lot of platforms for them, places to showcase. So this podcast has a potential to go beyond the borders of Kenosha and the area, well, between Milwaukee and Chicago. So it has the potential to be more and seen more. So that's kind of what I saw in going forward of how to uplift, how do I make an impact? And then I spieled it to Jake while we were waiting at a harbor market.
Yeah.
And
Working a booth at the harbor market.
yes, we were working a Lemon Street booth. Yeah, and he was just like, I like podcasts. And I'm like, you like podcasts? I have a podcast idea.
I said, I'm free Monday at 6.
And that's the story.
That's amazing. You
So,
accurately just described the beauty behind all art, and is finding that need and creating something new, because when we compete, nobody wins.
Yeah.
So creating something, seeing a need, creating something, and serving your community, that's what art does. So you accurately and beautifully described that. I hope everybody rewinds and listens to that again, because I might just write it down and make that my mission statement. It's just completely plagiarize it from you.
That's fine. Go
Tap the
ahead.
30-second back button like
Yes.
6 times. There you go.
And then cue Jake's phrase.
You know what I always say is a rising tide lifts all boats. Ships? Is it ships? Do I say ships?
Vessels?
I'm going to have to. Whatever they are, they're lifted by a
Nautical
rising
vessels?
tide.
Oh, that's so cool.
Lifts all canoes?
Bringing it back, the classic catchphrase.
Yes. So, yeah, love and support is kind of the goal. But now that we've went through the onslaught of questions,
That is a hardball question.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
You're on the hot seat here.
I
I feel
figured
it. I feel it.
I figured we could circle back to your work, since it is
Amazing.
yeah, you're exploring different perspectives and illusions, and I really would enjoy you speaking on how you create those illusions and your thought processes while creating those illusions. So, yeah, if you could tell us a little bit about your rainbows.
Yeah, I'll be completely and openly honest here, because I think even though it's a little uncomfortable to fully explain like the process and how I even discovered this, I do feel like being vulnerable in these areas will help others kind of accept maybe some things that they're going through, because I can't be the only one.
Definitely not.
And I feel like it'll be fine. So I'll be honest. When I first started painting big, and this is probably why I like to paint big, my first giant canvas was a 36 by 48 titled Breakthrough, which I've shown here, and it's of Lake Michigan wave. I went through this process, and again, those peak experiences that I've talked about. And during those peak experiences, like sometimes I get visions, sometimes I see things, and it's very cool. It's always like, so that's a real motivation to get back in the studio, just to even, have a chance at having those experiences again. And during one of them, when I first started painting Breakthrough, and this is why we call it Breakthrough, I heard a very clear voice saying, paint 3D moving pictures that will help other people's brains like you've helped your own. And I was like, well, what in the heck? Okay, but what do you mean by that? And it's like, and you come with this kind of awareness, and it was an awareness of, you'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like, I became small. I could see like myself on my shoulder. It was like, I've had some really life-changing experiences through art, through painting.
Wow.
So it's like, it's a pretty strong signal that I'm on the right track, I guess. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I will learn how to, I guess I'll paint 3D moving pictures that, make a brain talk better somehow. And I just kept painting. And then what I did is I started looking for ways that this was actually going to be in 3D or moving. And we have played a lot with the art, like covering one eye and kind of shifting back and forth. Some of the pieces kind of shift. And then I was like, well, it couldn't possibly be, but let's bring in 3D glasses. Let's just try it out. Let's just see if anything happens with and it did. And I could see the flashing. And I could see when, and it's an illusion. It tricks your mind. So the blue covers up all the blue in the painting, the red covers up all the red. Or it makes it more subtle, and then your eyes kind of compete and kind of switch back and forth, and your brain has to try and make sense of it. And that's what kind of causes the illusion. I quit watercolor painting actually when I started painting in rainbow. which was weird because that started coming out in my watercolors, and it scared me at the time because any good idea will scare you. And
That's how you know it's a good idea.
exactly, it gets your attention. So I quit. That's actually what drove me kind of into trying out, having the guts to try out oils. Was I started painting in rainbow, and it just, I don't know, it was scary. So I started, all of a sudden I just couldn't help myself, and I just painted the bubble painting, which is just this huge spectrum of a rainbow. And then I painted Jackie's Rose, and it's everything just kind of came through at that point. But then I realized, I was like, well, I don't know if I can just, I mean, that's just my own self-doubt. I'm like, I don't know if I could just paint rainbows. Of course you can. You just did.
Yeah.
Nobody stopped you then. They're not going to stop you in the future.
The evidence is right there. It's on the wall.
Right. I can't believe what you see. But like, and seeing, and then, but those pieces really gave me the opportunity to then learn how to play with like warms and cools of the same color, which will warm and cool with the blue and the red of the glasses. So it intensifies it. And now I can kind of control where that's going, which is really fun. And it's a lot easier for me to paint a full rainbow painting and have that be in 3D than it is to do some of like my more subtle work, like the cows will react in 3D. But that's more of a realism. So I'm trying to put all of these elements together. It's just, they're so like, it's like if you were to start at like a bullseye and you've got everything all on the outer rims of the bullseye, how do you dial all of those in to make something in the center? It's kind of how I feel. But yeah, I guess I just followed the voice in my head and had to reverse engineer it. So that's literally what happened.
If you paint it, they will come.
Yeah.
So, when working through a painting, do you kind of get like some base colors laid down and then you start kind of checking in with glasses, or like, do you just kind of check with glasses every step of the way? Is there like
I
a
don't
process?
check with glasses.
You don't? Okay.
No,
So
I trust the
awesome.
process.
Wow.
And I paint it upside down.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I don't know how you can do that.
It's a lot of trust. It's
Yeah.
a lot of trust. I always say the name of the game is trust thyself.
Oh,
And having the strength to do that, because we are our own worst critics. And especially being an artist, any medium at any point, any self-expression, I think that we really try to keep ourselves safe by self-doubting. And it's just, it might hurt. Well, it usually doesn't. It's going to be okay, but learning to trust that is really difficult, I think. At least it was for me.
I'd say it is. It's that big thing that you have to overcome of, like we've mentioned on previous podcasts, of just getting over that fear and creating, putting it out there, letting it be seen, expressing yourself, and not stifling the voice that you create when you put your artwork out there. So it's a big battle being an artist, getting over that inner critic. So
yeah, it definitely is. Especially, I'm a grown person drawing or painting rainbows. It looks like it's hard not to make it look like kids' work. It's hard not to make it look cartoony. You have to do it still in a very mature way. So, but at the same time, like, again, and those are two very difficult concepts to kind of put together, I think, in a way that's going to make sense and not be I don't want to say over rainbowed, but like, just to find something in there. So I do start with like a photorealistic base, I would say. And then through that base, and I will work off of, like, I'm a studio artist, so I work off of photos. Everything is upside down. I do turn back around and check, and so I do do turns, but the majority of the work, especially the technical work, is done upside down, and it has to be that way. I my brain is so biased. I can hear it thinking up there. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if I turn it upside down, I take it less personally. I am able to focus on the technicality of it. I see I see the shapes. I see lines. I don't see objects. I don't see things I can put a label to. Well, I mean, I guess lines is a label still, but it's, what we would consider like more of a truism versus subjective dog, for instance. So then once I'm really familiar with that in a photorealistic way, then I start adding in more of the rainbow palette, and I see where I can add what I want to actually come out and highlight. And I learn along the way what's supposed to be more warm, what's more supposed to be more cool. So I'm learning the entire time as I'm going just by studying it, studying, just the composition and the colors and all of that. And then I try and push it from there.
Well, that is really cool. I
That is
never
awesome.
thought about flipping my art upside down to just because your brain is wired to see
Yeah.
things, make connections when you're looking at it, and to take that moment to say, hey, we're going to disconnect, flip it upside down, and just focus on technique, line, and very basics of the piece. So that is an awesome technique that I never thought about doing. So
Like
I am learning so much from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a non-artist, like it seems
Yeah.
hard enough to paint right side up. And so like flip it upside down, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Or sideways, a lot of sideways. Like if something's not making sense, I've always liked my art better just when I did that. It was more technically correct to me.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, because like when we're looking at it, just the right orientation, our brain really hones in on symmetry and balance and like all this crazy stuff. So yeah, just shut that little part of your brain off and flip it upside down.
well, that's actually how the 3D glasses work too. Your brain's
yeah.
trying to make sense of the picture as a
Yeah.
whole. So it's trying to make connections that aren't necessarily there. And it's kind of neat that in some small way, you're kind of growing your brain a little bit, I guess, you're interacting with art and, taking that time to do that. And that's kind of what I really wanted to do. I try to make them as detailed and as interesting as possible, and try to keep you in the piece as much as possible so that you can actually take the time and kind of relax into it,
Yeah.
study it. Like,
And your work is always balanced so wonderfully. It's never like you always have like the rule of thirds. You always have a place for your eye to rest, and there's always a balance that is created within your work, and that's what keeps you from looping in and keep viewing it. So I really like the balance of your work.
I really
And so-
appreciate you saying that because I don't know what 2/3 of those words mean.
too.
So the rule of thirds is basically like when you have a horizon line set, you don't smack it dab right in the middle. You move it into, there's 3 sections. And our brain naturally, when you have something set in the middle, it will try and force it to look awkward. So if you offset it on purpose slightly, have a larger bottom or a larger top, the brain will then see more symmetry. Like it won't, your brain will perceive it better because it's purposely imbalanced. And so yeah, it's just a weird optical thing when viewing art. Like a lot of printmakers, when they do their art, they offset it and have a larger bottom to it. Because just visually having the heavier bottom, it looks more just balanced on the paper. So
It's like stable.
yes, yeah. And then because you'll have when you sign like your name, the edition, and everything, that weight on the white paper can really bring your eye down. So it's just kind of this rule of having a larger bottom on your print to offset labeling and all this other stuff. So it's just like a little art thing, the rule of thirds. And part of balance. So you do it very well.
Thank
So
you.
you're like, I don't know what that was, but I did it. Yay, yay, yay.
Another thing that I've learned today.
Yes. So that's an important thing with composition is when if you get stuck with a composition, sometimes if you shift things where you have more negative space for the eye to rest, just shifting things around because you want to visually keep looping something in. To keep you attached to that painting to really attract someone. So, but you do that really well, especially with your were they ducks or geese? I can't remember.
Both.
Okay.
They're definitely both.
Okay. I
They're
was like, I couldn't
Egyptian
remember.
geese ducks from South Africa.
Oh, gotcha.
Because they can't decide if they're geese or ducks.
Okay.
So, like, you're both right.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, it was a birds. I can't remember what birds, but you did that so perfectly because there's this weight in kind of the 2 quadrants, and then you have this open space with the sky, but you still had swirling motions from the sky. So that helped kind of cycle you back in with the motion and the chaos, with the openness and swirl of the sky. So that was like one. Every time I go in the brick gallery, I'm just like, I love that thing. Like I just love it. I can't stop looking at it.
You know,
So.
it's so funny because the way I learned what you learned. I was like, okay, so if every time we read a book, we're starting from the top left, and I know that if my eye wants to drift this way, so I would put in stops. I had no idea that there's supposed to be eye rest. So like,
Yeah.
that's cool. That I love that. That it is truly how humans work.
Yeah. So like just you need a little space to have your eyes take a break, but then it can cycle you back into the visuals going on. It's really important with like abstract work, but I find it also very important in like realism and other if I can talk, non-abstract work, because then that's what you get people to really connect with your work visually, and so composition is very, very important. And you've mastered it, I think. So
Thank you.
yay.
I put a lot of thought in my composition. I just don't know what. Again, I took YouTube.
Yeah, I took YouTube. I learned from YouTube.
Well, that makes YouTube look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was about. It was just how to right color, right place. It was Draw Mix Paint by Mark Carter. I highly recommend him.
Go check
Awesome.
that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Morgan, for this long, well, not long, but I loved every second of it, and I'm sad that we're ending this episode. But if you have anything you want to shout out or where people can find you,
Well, they can find you in the Brick Gallery until July 24th.
yes,
not
and
forget
come
that.
see the
Please,
3D.
please. Yes, grab the 3D glasses. It's and too, I want to be clear. I'm not the only artist who does 3D work. I do it consciously, and that I think is a little bit different. But like seeing Van Gogh's work in 3D glasses is amazing.
Oh.
Definitely play with art, and that's kind of really the message behind everything.
That's great.
Awesome. So we can find you on Instagram.
Yes, Instagram, basically across the internet at Morgan Adams Online. Anytime you put that in, you should be able to find me. I am here through July 24th, as you said, which is fantastic. And it's an incredible show. I'm also now in Sky and Water that will be going through the next 6 weeks in Art Pop in Lake Forest. So that's 724 Northwestern Avenue in Lake Forest, open Thursday through Saturday from 10 to 4, I believe.
Okay.
So that's another place where I am viewable. So if you want to see them, and I would highly recommend seeing them in person just for this scale.
Yeah, get down there.
Definitely. Yes.
Stop on down.
Stop on down. Because Illinois is down.
That's down. Yeah. South is down. Everybody
Yeah.
knows.
Thank you so much for having me on here. This was an absolutely joy, just an absolute joy to speak with you both. And I really appreciate your thoughtful questions, what you're doing for the community, for all of us artists. Honestly, I really thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Oh,
Well, the pleasure is all ours.
Aw, you're gonna make me cry again.
Again.
Alrighty. Anything you want to mention before we sign off?
Did we forget anything?
No, I don't. I think we're well covered for it. I appreciate this is my first real podcast,
Oh.
so I truly appreciate it.
Aw. Well, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Oh, TikTok.
Yeah, we're working on TikTok. Hopefully next week we'll have one out. Don't hold me to that though. But
And next week is actually next week because this is coming out Friday.
don't hold me to the next week.
Okay.
Look in 2
Soon,
weeks, I
soon.
guess. I don't know. But yeah, you can find us on social media platforms, and you can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Spotify, YouTube. We have our YouTube channel. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. If you could leave us a little review and a rating, that would be
Yes.
lovely.
Tell us what we need to do better.
Or you could shoot us a DM, let us know, give us some feedback, because we want to keep moving and growing and doing amazing things. And we can't do that without some feedback. So, and then we also have our Facebook group on Instagram, The Marvelous Makers and the Art Appreciators. If you'd like to join that, you can get the inside scoop on local art events that are going on, some local music events. You could talk about episodes, anything podcast related or art related there in the area. So,
check that out.
lots of fun.
Share this episode with your friends. Make it go viral.
Yes.
This is going to be our viral episode. I can feel it.
I can feel it in my bones.
Because you said it's going to be true.
Okay, yeah, and then
Yes.
way at the end.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.